So in, I think it was either May or April. May or April, why have you said those backwards? Why? No, it must have been May. Yeah, May or June, yeah. Hi everyone, welcome back. So today I'm going to be talking about things I've not spoken about on my channel before, but I do want to make videos about them and I do want to document like the journey. So I'm going to be talking about my issues with endometrial cysts and also potentially the start of my fertility treatment, I think. So I'm obviously going to be talking about the reproductive system and all the things that go along with that. So if you don't like to hear about periods, discharge, sex, then this is not the video for you. This is your warning to leave now. But I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat anything because it's just life. Okay, so I've actually like written things down, so hopefully I won't be like all over the place. So I'm going to start from the beginning. It's always the best place to start. So when I started my periods, when I was like 13 or 14 or whatever, my periods were horrendous, very heavy, painful and irregular as well. I could go sometimes 6 months without having a period. So then when I was 17, I was in my first like proper relationship, so obviously needed contraceptives, and also I wanted to go on the pill for my periods as well, just to sort those out, because at that point I'd had enough of them absolutely doing me head in. So went on the pill, absolutely great in regards to contraceptives, that's the job, brilliant. But I always had the same outcome when I'd been on a pill for a number of years. And that would be like a build-up, I'm assuming, of hormones, which would affect my mental health, and I would have horrendous mood swings. I'd be in a constant low mood, just not nice to be around. It wasn't very nice to the people around me as well, and I could just change. It was horrible, and I was sick and tired of being like that, and no pill that I'd been on since the age of 17 had helped. They'd been great for a year or two, and then it had just gone back to the way it was before. So in February of 2016, I finally came off the pill for good. I was sworn off it. I still am to this day. Will never ever go back on the pill. It's just not worth the way it made me feel. Just not worth it at all. By May of that year, I'd started to get this really horrible brown thick sludge coming out of me at the end of my period. And my periods are like, I think the length of my cycle is slightly longer than normal. So say within like a 5-week time scale, 5-week period, I would probably only have 2 to 3 days in those 5 weeks where I didn't have either a period or this absolutely horrible discharge coming out. So it was just constant, it was vile. So I ended up going to the GP in, I think it was either January or February of 2017, and she sent me for a blood test straight away and referred me to the gynaecologist, who is in between Wiston and St Helens hospitals. So the blood test was to test for cancer, which came back negative. The gynaecologist referred me for an ultrasound, which showed that I had a cyst on my left ovary, and the gynaecologist believed that this was an endometrial cyst. So in the follow-up appointment, she suggested me having a biopsy done just to make sure it was definitely an endometrial cyst, and just to make sure that there wasn't any cancer cells or precancerous cells there. And also she advised me about getting the Mirena coil because I refused to go back on the pill, and she said that the Mirena coil would localise the hormones, so the hormones wouldn't be travelling around my body and affecting my mental health. So I agreed to it. I was also under the impression that the coil would help the cyst. So had that fitted, and biopsy came back and it was absolutely fine. So it is just an endometrial cyst. It was agreed that I would be monitored every 6 months, just to make sure that things weren't getting any worse. When I had a scan in the October of 2018, in the follow-up appointment, the gynecologist had said, so good news, the cyst has shrunk and so has the mass in the fallopian tube. And I was like, come again, what mass? And she said, the mass in your fallopian tube. I said, you've not told me that I've got a mass in my fallopian tube. This is the first I'm hearing of it. And she said, oh yeah, it's like a sac full of fluid. We don't know whether it's part of the cyst because it sits so close, or whether it's something separate, but we're not worried about it at the moment. And it shrunk as well, so I don't need to see you for 12 months. I was just like, oh right, okay, fine, great. Then I get an appointment letter for a transvaginal scan in April of 2019. So I was like, right, didn't think I needed to be seen for 12 months, and I've not had a transvaginal scan before. I've only ever had an ultrasound. So I phoned up just to double check whether or not I definitely needed the scan, because I was under the impression that I wasn't being seen for 12 months. So I was a bit concerned, and obviously I didn't want to waste anybody's time, mine or the hospital's, and any resources if it didn't need to happen. So I phoned up, and the lady that I spoke to said, no, you do need to have this scan because there was a thickening of your womb lining in your last scan. And I was like, God, that wasn't mentioned to me in my previous follow-up appointment. But then again, it was the first time I'd heard about having a mass in my fallopian tube, so they could have quite easily not told me about the thickening of the womb lining. So I was just like, right, okay, fine, I'll go for the scan. So I go for the scan, and I think this is like a normal thing that they do, where if you're having anything done or whatever, they'll ask you if you know why you're there that day. I think so they can confirm that you're capacitous enough to completely understand why you're there and what's going to happen, to like cover themselves. So the lady said, so you know why you're here today? And I said, yeah, I'm having a scan because my last scan showed that I had thickening of the womb lining. And she was like, no, that's not on any of your notes. And I was like, well, that's what I was told when I phoned up to ask why I was having this, because I was told I didn't need to be seen for 12 months. And she was like, no, don't know where they've got that from, because it's not anywhere on your notes whatsoever. And I was like, oh, right, okay. I said, well, I know I've got a cyst on my left ovary. And she went, no, it's on your right. So I was just like, what is going on? What is going on? So I had the scan. Lady was brilliant, and she said, you're very, very complicated inside, very complicated. So I'm gonna have to take my time to really figure out what's going on. So I was like, brilliant, do what you need to do, you know, do a boss job, brilliant. So the follow-up appointment, I saw a lovely gentleman doctor. I didn't have, before this, the same gynae doctor every single time. I would just have whatever consultant was available on the day, which is absolutely fine by me, doesn't bother me whatsoever, as long as everybody's singing from the same hymn sheet and can read the previous person's notes and can leave notes for the next person. Doesn't bother me whatsoever. So this lovely fella said that the lady that done the transvaginal scan had done a fantastic job, and it was the best scan results that they'd had. And what he said was that my womb was twisted and tilted, and that it was easily fixable. So if I wanted to try for children, that he would advise me getting this operation to fix my twisted and tilted womb before trying for a baby. So I said, can I speak to my partner first, see what he thinks? He was like, absolutely, and I'll book you in for an appointment to see the gynecologist who you're under, to let her know what your answer is and discuss things going forward. So I was like, brilliant, thank you very much. So about 2 weeks later, I saw my gynae doctor that I'm under, and she said, so you've come today to let me know whether or not we're going to remove your left ovary and fallopian tube. And I was like, no. The conversation I'd had with the previous consultant was that my womb is twisted and tilted and that it's easily fixable, and that's what I was discussing with my partner, whether or not we were going to try to fix before we tried to try to have a baby. And she said, oh no, you have got a tilted womb, but that's just the way you are, and that's, you know, pointless fixing it. A lot of people have tilted wombs. We need to know whether or not you want us to remove your ovary and or your fallopian tube on the left. And at this point I had a breakdown, because I was just like, I'm being told different things constantly by different people, and I feel like you're not telling me the full extent of things all the time. You're like leaving things out, so I don't know what's going on the inside. I don't know who I'm supposed to be listening to, because I'm being told the different things constantly by different people. So she was like, right, apologise, from now on you will only deal with me. And I was like, okay, I appreciate that, as long as I'm being told the full extent of everything that's going on. Like, fine, brilliant, thank you. And I also mentioned that the lady who'd done the scan had said that the cyst was on the right and not the left, and she said, oh no, you've got a cyst on the left with this mass which we believe is attached to it in your fallopian tube, but you've now also got a cyst on your right ovary as well. So I was just like, Jesus Christ. So the gist of the conversation was that she couldn't say for definite whether or not these cysts and this mass in my fallopian tube was going to have any impact on my fertility. And it was decided, or I decided, that I would much prefer to just leave things as is, and when I was ready to start trying, try first before having anything removed or whatever. The doctor did explain that with this mass in the fallopian tube that I was more at risk of having an ectopic pregnancy, and she also advised that if I did need fertility treatment further down the line, before they would do any IVF or anything like that, that I would need to have the cyst and the tube removed. So she said, we'll just monitor you now again for every 6 months going forward. Fine. Me and my now husband decided that I would have the coil removed after our wedding, which was in July of last year, and then we would start trying for a baby. So I had the coil removed, I think it was either the end of July, beginning of August, and what a relief. I can't believe how much pain and discomfort I'd been in for like 2.5 years while it was there. It just hadn't settled at all, and again, I will never have the coil fitted again. So the pill's out the question, and the coil is a no-go, not doing it. So I've been using the Clue app for a number of years. I've got a subscription, so I pay like £10 a year, and I get like a more in-depth version of it and like monthly reports emailed to me, which I absolutely love. And even though my periods are like completely just all over the place, it can usually predict me periods when I'm due on, either to the day or like a day or two either side of when I'm actually due to start. So it's just a great indication of when I'm due to start my period, which is fantastic. But I was relying on it for the fertility window, because it lets you know when your fertile period is within your cycle, and obviously wasn't getting pregnant. And then I love watching Phoebe and Me, Jess's channel, and she'd announced that she'd gotten pregnant and she'd used those ovulation sticks from Poundland. So I thought, I'm gonna buy some of those and start, testing and trying to figure out when my ovulation window is, fertile window is. And obviously the more information that you put into Clue, the more accurate it's going to be. So it also gives you the option to track positive and negative ovulation tests as well within the app. I just love it. I just love it so much. So started using the strips as well as the app, and getting to know my body and changing discharge and stuff like that has really helped me understand when I'm due to ovulate. So I've kind of like got it down to a T now. I know we can pretty much figure out when my fertile window is without even needing to use the ovulation sticks. I still do, just to make sure and for that peace of mind, but obviously I'm still not pregnant. At my scan in November of last year, the lady that was doing it was a different lady, and she was like, oh my god, you are so complicated inside, like I'm struggling to figure out what's going on. And then eventually she said, your left ovary is tucked under your tilted womb, so it's like underneath it. So I'm having a bit of trouble just figuring out things. And she asked me if I had any kids or whether I was trying for kids, and I said, oh yeah, me and my partner have been trying since like August. And she said, based on your age, so at the time I was 35, I'm now 36, based on your age and the issues that you've got internally, I would be pushing for fertility treatment. And I was like, oh right, okay. I hadn't thought about it just yet, you know. I want to try things naturally, and I didn't do anything about it then because we'd only been trying since August and it was only November, so it just wasn't something I was willing to put myself forward for at that point. So it was either May or June of this year I received a letter for a telephone consultation with the gynae doctor, and I didn't have a scan appointment booked in before that, and I thought maybe they're just not doing the scans at the moment with everything that's going on in the world. So the gynae doctor phoned and she said, no really, you should have had a scan appointment beforehand, so I'm gonna book you in for that. But if you are happy with everything as is, so you don't want the ovary and fallopian tube removed and it's not causing you any issues, are you okay if we just leave like this open for now? So we won't monitor you every 6 months because it's pointless if we're not going to do anything about it, but you can come back to us at any point if you are having any symptoms that you're not happy with, or if you decide that you do want the ovary and fallopian tube removed, you can just come back. So I was like, yeah, that's absolutely fine, not a problem. So she said, I'll refer you for the scan and you'll get those results, and then we'll leave it there. But I would suggest that now you should be thinking about speaking to your GP to ask for blood tests to check your hormones and possible referral to a fertility clinic. So I was like, right, okay, I'll do that. So I had the scan in July, and it was a different lady again who saw me. She was brilliant, and she said, oh my god, you've not made this easy for me at all. I think I'll be taking the day off the next time you're coming in for the scan. That's how bad it is. So the first thing that she said to me when I got into the room was, so you've got endometriosis? And I said, well, I've not been told I've got endometriosis, I've been told I've got an endometrial cyst, but I assume the two go hand in hand, so possibly, I don't know, not being told I've got it though. She's like, right, okay. So then she's doing the scan, again a transvaginal scan, and she said, have you ever been diagnosed with polycystic ovaries? And I said, no, haven't, nobody's mentioned that at all. She's like, right, okay. A few minutes later she said, has anybody spoken to you about having a heart-shaped womb? And I was like, no, again, nobody's mentioned that. She's like, right, okay, that's fine. So that was it. I left the appointment, phoned my mum to let her know, and as soon as I said heart-shaped womb, she went, oh no. I was like, what? She said, if you've got a heart-shaped womb, a bicornuate womb, I think that's how you say it, that's the same type of womb that I had, which is probably the reason I'm an only child, because it can affect fertility. And my mum also ends up having to have a hysterectomy in her 40s because of the issues caused by having a bicornuate womb. So yeah, brilliant. But I haven't been told I've got that yet. It was just something that was said by the lady that was scanning me. So it is now today the 6th of September. So I had my scan, I think it was either the 24th or the 27th of July. And after 2 weeks, I still hadn't had either a telephone call or a letter with me results. So I phoned up and the lady said, oh no, you should have had your results by now, so I'll get somebody to send out a letter to you. It's like, brilliant, fine. I then received a letter to say I was having a telephone consultation to give me my results. Fine. I then received a phone call the day before I was due to have my telephone consultation to say that the appointment had been booked in with a random consultant, and it was the gynae doctor that wanted to speak to me. Now, whether that was because the gynae doctor had promised me previously that it would only be her that would deal with me from then on, or whether or not it's because she wants to have a proper conversation with me, I don't know. But the lady did say that the gynae doctor had said, don't worry, you know, it's nothing serious, she just wants to speak to you herself. So I was like, right, okay. So my appointment for my results for the scan that I had in July isn't until the 9th of September. So at this point I still have no idea what the results of that scan is. Like, yeah, don't know. But in the meantime, I have contacted my GP and I've been for a blood test, and he's referred me to Liverpool Women's Hospital for like possible fertility treatment. So far I received a letter to say that somebody would ring me to book an appointment, and if they hadn't rang by the 4th of September, which was Friday just gone, that I have to ring them up to chase that appointment. So as of tomorrow I'm going to be ringing them to find out about getting an appointment. Paul has also had to speak with our GP because potentially he's going to have to do give a sperm sample for him to be tested, although the GP said there's probably nothing wrong with you whatsoever given that he's got 2 kids already. So we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens. But this is going to be like the first little installment of this whole process. See what happens from now on. Like, I don't know what the deal is. I don't know whether I would qualify for fertility treatment with only having been trying for just over a year. I don't know whether or not I'm going to have my ovary and fallopian tube on the left removed beforehand. I don't know, so I will keep you updated. So that's everything for this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more, then please subscribe. Bye!